Hey theater makers, welcome to our last week. I'm so excited to be with you. I'm sad that this is coming to an end, and I'm very curious to see what will come next for you in your theater making journey. So for one of the last two times, let's get started as we always do with our opening breaths. So I'm wiggling my body out a little bit in order to arrive at an upright posture, shoulders back and down, chest open. My eyes are fluttering closed. If that's safe for you, you're welcome to do so, or you can keep them open with a soft gaze. I am going to have my hands up for inspiration this time. That's something that I'm looking for today. And I have my feet flat on the floor. And as always, I'm just going to start and invite you to start with noticing that breathing is happening. Maybe breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. And remembering as always that whatever is happening for you today, whatever day you're coming from, you can bring it here or you can leave it at the door, up to you. And I invite you to try with me again those square breaths that we did a couple weeks ago. So the way that this one works is that we breathe in on a count of 4, we hold it for a count of 4, breathe out on a count of 4, and hold it on a count of 4. And that makes our square, 4 sides of breath. Okay? So breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4, breathing out, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do a couple more square breaths on your own rhythm. If it's feeling good for you to do more square breaths, you're welcome to stay there. If you are ready to move on to something else, you can do a general body scan, noticing where you're holding tension, where things feel tight, and send an invitation with your breath to relax, to open up in each of those spaces, knowing that this time is a gift, this time is set aside for you to work on building your creative practice for you to play. And if you can invite just a little more space, just a little more energy into your body, that will help you. Take a few more breaths on your own time. And when you're ready, you can flutter your eyes open if they've been closed, or just return your focus to the screen if you've had a soft gaze. And let out a sigh. Another sigh, breathe in. One more really big, and you can let your body sigh as well. Awesome. So we are heading into our last week, and we were playing a lot with character last week. And as we move into week 4, we are going to do a little bit of stuff today with story structure and with power and stage pictures and images. And we're going to use that to build up a final little piece that you can prepare for the last class. So we are moving out of our sequence of working with self, working with others, working with character. We're folding this bit on story into making change and letting it be. So let's get up. We'll do our warm-up, and then I will show you some stuff on story structure and power. So find yourself in an open space. Just start by generating some momentum in your body. Twists can really help with this. Experiment with how much momentum you can do while still staying centered. Experiment with very little momentum, but still moving in rhythm. And let's stretch over to the side, opening up all of the side space here in our oblique muscles. And on the other side, opening up these obliques here. Let that go. Let's roll our neck slowly and gently in one direction, and then roll it slowly and gently in the other direction. Good. Drop into your shoulders, rolling back. Forward. Good. Hunch your shoulders up and make a little sound like this. And let them drop with a sound like that. One more time, hunch the shoulders up. And let them drop. Awesome. Open your body big. Your whole face and your whole body as big and as wide as you can. And get really small. As small as you can in every part of your body and spirit. And really big. Really, 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 really big. Huge. Enormous. Don't forget your eyes. And small. Let's do a shakeout. So we'll do 8, 6, 4, 2, and 1. And we're doing arm, arm, leg, leg, full body. And then we'll move on. Okay, ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and awesome. Okay, so wiggle that out. And let's do 2 more things. Let's do reaching up. Stretching all the way through our spine, imagining as always that there's a string at the back of our head pulling us up. And flop over. Let yourself hang as heavy as you can. Really letting gravity do its work, leaning into the floor, working on not holding yourself up but letting yourself fall. And shake your head yes. Shake your head no. Shake your head yes. And no. Let out a yawn if you can. And start to roll up slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae. Head to one side and the other. As my drama teacher used to say, oops, I accidentally turned it off. As my drama teacher used to say, like a balloon on a stick. Good. One more time, reaching up. And flop over. Nod your head yes. Shake your head no. And start to roll up. Vertebrae by vertebrae, stacking slowly. Head is the last thing to come up. Shoulders go down and back. Chest is open. And we turn from side to side. Cool. Last thing I want to do today as a warm-up is just to do a little bit of a mirror exercise again. So I'm going to lead, and you can follow along with me. Doing what my body is doing as best you can to follow along with me, like we're two sides of a mirror. Cool. Yeah, let's leave it there for today for warm-ups because we have some stuff to do. So I'm going to show you two things about what it is, what it can be to come up with a story that we can use in a theater piece. So stories can have lots of structures, and I definitely don't want you to come away from this thinking there's only one way to do a story. But I do want to share with you kind of a classic way of thinking about how stories work, because you will run into this in many of the plays that you see in a theater, many of the movies that you see in a movie theater, or that you see on Netflix. You'll see it on TV shows. You'll see it in video games and computer games. This is kind of a classic way of thinking about a story. So, in a story, we proceed through kind of three distinct sections of what's going on. And we're following usually a character. Sometimes it's a couple of characters and we sort of go between them. But there's usually one person who's really like the main focal point of the story. And this is the person that we want to really care about because we want to follow their journey through all the things that are going to happen to them. And a character usually starts with a goal, something that they want. This is some of the stuff that we generated last week in our writing exercises. They have a reason for wanting that thing, a motivation, and there's some challenges. There's some stuff that's going to get in their way and make it hard for them to achieve their goal. And that's where the driving energy of the story comes from, is for us to follow along with this character to see if they can overcome those challenges to get what they want. So in Act 1, in the first part of the story, we really just want to know, where are we? You know, what is happening in the world that we have just entered into? And whose story is it that we're following? And what do we get to know about them from the beginning? As we go on in the story, you'll see that the tension, and I'm going to, by the way, I'm going to put this diagram, I'm going to take a picture of it, and I'm going to put it in the Edmodo post, or in a separate Edmodo post, just so you know, you'll have access to this. So as we move along in the story, the level of tension rises, which is to say that we as the audience, as we're watching, we generally get more and more involved, and we get more and more kind of nervous to see if this is all really going to work out. We get more and more concerned about the character as they go through some of the struggles and challenges and conflicts that come up in this second act of the story. So that level of kind of rising tension is a way of describing what the audience's experience is watching. We really want, if a story is well constructed in this way, we really want this character to succeed, and we might get nervous that they won't. So in the second act, we are wondering, how does this character try to get what they want? What's standing in their way? And around the midpoint of the story, sometimes there might be a twist where the story that we think we're watching is shown to be a different story. And if I was really smart about this, I would have come up with an example to show to you of what a good example of a twist is in a story. So I'm going to take a moment after this video and look that up and think about it, and then put it in the notes as well. When we get to this part of the story, this big part up here, this is the climax. This is like the high point of tension where we're like most in the audience like freaking out to see if this is really going to work. And it's where something eventually gets resolved. And what we want to see in this version of a story structure, what we want to see in the resolution in Act 3, is we want to know what the character has learned. And we might want to know what in the world of the story has changed. How has the world that this story happened in changed? Because one of the things that might happen in a resolution is maybe the main character dies. That might be something that happens there. So we're still following their journey, even if the character is no longer alive, because through the actions that they took part in during this story, hopefully something in the world has changed. So that's why when we first talked about this at the very first session, I talked about stories really being about people changing and the world changing. That's kind of the journey that we want to go on emotionally. So in conjunction with that, like at the same time, another thing that I want to just revisit, because we've talked about it a little bit, is this idea of power. Another way of thinking about this in theater terms is status. So a lot of people who teach about theater would say, like, all of us always are playing different kinds of status games with each other. So some of these things just have to do with the ways that we some of these things just have to do with the ways that we might relate to each other in terms of having status in a certain interaction because we have a skill that someone else doesn't. We also might be interacting with status in the sense that society has put us in particular kinds of positions based on the way that society structures the hierarchies of power. So when we're thinking about power, when we're thinking about status, part of what I want to invite you to do is to be critical and to say, do I like the way that this society is structured? And do I want to write a story or create a theatrical piece where the world of power relations that we actually live in gets to continue, or do I want to do something to interrupt that? So traditionally, like in sort of ancient Greek theater, traditionally the thing that we would cry about, like the big tragedy, is when someone who's in a position of high status, like a queen or a king, is brought low. So someone is, they lose their kingdom or their queendom, they are killed in some variety of ways, some big secret comes out about them. Traditionally, this is what we would cry about. We're so sad that the person of high status is brought low. Take a bookmark on that, because maybe that's not what we want to do. And traditionally, what we would laugh about is when someone who's in a position of low status gets shown to be actually smarter than everyone else, or actually better positioned to be the leader, and that makes us laugh. So the question that I would just encourage you to ask is, who is it in our stories that we want to be crying for? Do we want to be crying for the people in positions of high status, or are we more concerned with the troubles and the trials and tribulations of people that are in positions of low status in society? What feels okay for us to laugh about in a story? The definitions of what's funny change over time, and they're changing every day in our current life. So that's a good question to be asking yourself. What feels okay to laugh about? Am I, so-called, if I'm making a joke about somebody, there's a saying like, am I punching up or am I punching down? Which is to say that if someone's already in a position of being oppressed, maybe we don't want to make a joke at their expense because they're already dealing with a lot. And the other thing I would just invite you to ask is, can a story work to shift definitions of power in our society? And the answer is yes, they can. So those are two things I wanted to introduce to you. And enough talking and enough diagramming. Let's actually get up and do some stuff. Okay, so branching off of that discussion we were just having about power, I want to introduce you to one of my very favorite theater exercises of all time. And this is from a guy that I mentioned, I think in the first or second class, whose name was Augusto Boal. He was a Brazilian theater teacher and director and educator who was the founder of what's called Theater of the Oppressed. Theater of the Oppressed is a school of training that helps prepare people to step into active roles to interrupt injustices in society and to change the way that power is structured, so to flip the power structures around. And to play this game or to engage in this exercise, one of the things I want you to remember that we talked about toward the beginning was that theater is a visual medium. So a lot of the stuff we've been doing has been working with our bodies and working with creating images as a window into how theater works. And that's very much what we're going to do for the rest of this session, is make images that tell stories using power or using status as a way in. So I think you'll see what I mean when we get to it. So this exercise, I don't remember if he has a specific name for it, but I always call it power sculptures or sculpting power. And the way that it works, I would just invite you in your own space to get a couple of chairs. And you can use other things as well, but chairs are easiest, and chairs actually have a lot of personality. So get a couple of chairs, and I'm going to make a couple of arrangements, a couple of sculptures, some images, some stage pictures for you to look at. And then we're going to think together about what do we see as the power relationships and the power dynamics in this image. So this is my first one that I just made. And I invite you to take a look at it. See if you have a sense, does any one chair here have more power than the other chairs? Do two of the chairs have power, but one of the chairs doesn't? Do all three of them seem to be sharing power? How do you see the power relationships in this image? And this is an opportunity, too, for us to experiment, since we're all on Zoom. Well, we're not on Zoom. We're on YouTube together. This is an opportunity to experiment with moving our viewpoint around to see if that unlocks anything different. So looking at this image from this angle, do the power relationships seem to change? Do you see a different chair as having more power than the other ones now? What about from... You're going to see how messy my room is right now. What about from this angle? Do the power relationships seem to change? So I'm very curious to hear what you actually think about this, although unfortunately I can't do that right now. I'll tell you some things that come up for me. When I see this image, pretty much from every angle, I see this chair as having a lot of power because I see it as being in front of the other two chairs. But at the same time, both of these chairs are bigger than this one. And so sometimes that complicates the power in this image for me. And sometimes I think maybe this chair has a lot of power, or maybe this chair has a lot of power. I'm not experiencing these chairs as sharing power equally. I'm definitely experiencing them as one or more of them having an imbalance of power, having more power than the others. So that's how I'm seeing it, but you're welcome to let me know on Edmodo what you think and what you saw. I'm going to move these around. I'm just going to try a different thing. I'm not going to think too hard about it. I'm going to use the same principles of yes and that we've been working with all summer. Okay. So, just made a random choice there. Let's see if I can get this. This is like cinematography class now. Okay, so this is now the image that we have. This one's on the floor. This one is facing away. This one's in the back. Take a look. See what you notice. See if you are experiencing any one of these chairs as having more power. Are you experiencing them as sharing power equally? Okay. Try looking at it from this angle. Does that change the way you see power in this image? And try looking at it from this angle. Does that change the way that you see power? So again, part of what we're doing here, not only are we playing with the physical forms on stage, which are chairs in this case, but could also be bodies. And could also be set pieces. We're playing with just different pieces of what's called a tableau, which is a French word for a stage picture. But we're also playing with the viewpoint, right? And I'm putting you in different positions relative to these chairs that might activate different sensations for you. And so if you're making a piece, particularly if you're making a piece that you're filming and putting up on something like YouTube, it really might change the way that that piece works if the camera is facing me this way versus if the camera is facing me like this, right? Something has shifted just by the way that I flipped the camera around. And now, for instance, this becomes a usable entrance, which didn't exist before, right? I can go off stage and suddenly I can appear. So be thinking about that as you're creating your own stuff. You get to play with all of those different variables. Okay, so I'm going to make one more image. And I'm smiling about this one because I made this image with a friend at one point and we had big disagreements about it. So I'll see what you think. Okay, so here's what I've done. So you can see that these three chairs, sorry. Oh my goodness, this is going to make you seasick. Apologize. These three chairs are facing each other now. You can look at it from this angle. And try looking at it from this angle. Now, I will say, this is a really fun surprise. When I put the computer down right there, and I popped it down to look at the white chair, kind of from the perspective of the white chair, it really changed the image for me. When I saw it from the other two vantage points, I saw this circle as being, you know, these chairs are really sharing power. Now, because they're all facing each other, they're kind of an equal distance from each other, even though they're different sizes, they seemed to be equal in status. Now, when I look at it from this perspective, it's totally changed. I now see this chair as being in a position to like interrogate the other two chairs. So part of what comes out in this game, and obviously you might have a different perspective, but part of what comes out in this game that's really interesting is that we tend to interpret chairs as people. We tend to interpret them as characters, and we start assigning motivation. So I just said, kind of out of nowhere without even thinking about it, I was like, oh, this one, you know, what I was thinking about was like, this one's like a principal of a school, and this principal has two students in their office, and they're like scolding them for something. And that's starting to paint a picture of a particular kind of scene. And so as we're creating theater pieces, knowing that theater is a visual medium, that's part of the way that we create tension for our audience, is we create sculptures, we create pictures that seem to imply or establish a certain kind of power relationship or status relationship between characters. And that's how we get kind of hooked on this story arc where we want to follow what's going to happen for this character. Are they going to succeed in getting what they want or not? And it's how we get hooked on these ideas of people in positions of high and low status shifting. Whether or not we want to cry or laugh about these things, I do think that this way of thinking about how stories work is really helpful. So those were 3 images. I could have made 10 or 15 or 27, and we would have had lots to talk about and lots to explore. And I would invite you, if you are watching this and you get really excited and you want to tell me how you saw the images because you saw them really differently from the way that I did, please let me know on Edmodo. Definitely feel free to take pictures or videos of you arranging chairs in your space, and I would love to respond to what the power relationships look like to me and hear what they look like to you. And know that the point of all of this is that we can use these as building blocks. Using this principle of building a stage picture, we can use that as a building block toward making a whole living and breathing piece of theater. So the last exercise that I think I'm actually going to suggest we kind of do, I'll kind of give as like a suggested activity for the next 2 days, and then I'll revisit it with you on Thursday or whenever I get the next video up, is to make 5 stage pictures that represent the total arc of the story that you want to tell. So for me, using all the stuff, all this material that we generated last time, remember that I'm going to be making an opera, I think. Yeah, I'm going to be making an opera about a Pokemon trainer who has dreams of, either dreams of being a giant or dreams of their teeth falling out. I'm going to think about that. And they have a crush on someone. They have a crush on someone, and that's their secret. And what they really want is to be given gratitude for all of the unacknowledged labor that they've put into this relationship. So that's kind of the setting for the story that I'm going to tell. And what I'm going to do, what I'm going to invite you to do, what I'm going to invite myself to do in the next 2 days, is make some stage pictures. And I would say make 5 of them. And with 5 stage pictures, you can get all the way through from the beginning of the story, where we're getting to know what it's like. You know, so honestly, I'm gonna do just like a very quick version of this right now. I changed my mind. This is improvisation at work. So if I'm doing a stage picture where I'm playing a Pokemon trainer and I want to show that this Pokemon trainer has a crush on someone who doesn't seem to know that they exist, one of the ways I might do that is I might set up this chair, you know, facing away. And if I'm going to be the Pokemon trainer, I've got my little Pokeball here. I'm going to put my Pokeball in this hand because I'm going to be looking over very longingly. Now I should actually be a little farther away from them. I'm going to be looking longingly over at the person that I have a crush on. Okay? So that's stage picture 1. That starts to establish a relationship between us. And then let's say, you know, maybe in stage picture 4 out of 5, at the climax of the story, the high point of tension, this chair has turned around. I'm going to be on my knees showing them all the cool Pokemon that I've created, that I've captured, and just expressing all my love for them, right? So I'm holding that picture now to show a different relationship of status. And then in stage picture 5, we're going to see like what happens. Does this crush work out? Does something else happen? So I wanted to just do those 2 examples so that you can see, you can play with creating a stage picture with other pieces, like set pieces, like chairs you could use, and those can stand in for other characters. And you can put yourself in 5 different positions that show the progression of the story. So we'll revisit this next time, and basically what I'll do next time is I'll show you my 5 stage pictures for this story that I'm inventing off the top of my head, and then I'm just going to show you moving it into a first try of like, I don't know, let's actually make this into an opera. So I'm going to sing the story for you based on the information that I got from the stage pictures. So I'm encouraging you to do the same. Whatever story you're wanting to tell, tell it in 5 still images, 5 snapshots first, and then we'll transform it into a living, breathing thing. Okay? So, as always, oops, I'm like falling over here. Anyway, let's finish with our closing breaths. So, invite you to close your eyes if that's comfortable and safe. If not, keep them open with a soft gaze. And as always, we take a breath first for the ancestors each of us brings to this space and the indigenous people that were here before colonization. Breathing in and out. A breath to thank yourself for your practice today. Breathing in and out. A breath to thank others for their support. Breathing in and out. And a breath for the intentions and well-being of everyone in our virtual Theatremaker community, everyone in the city of Providence, and certainly everyone in your family and circle of friends. Breathing in and out. The loving and creative human in me celebrates the loving and creative human in you. I will look forward to seeing you for our last session next time. Bye, y'all. See you soon.